I'm Brian Peterson, and I'm your host in a new podcast called Elevating Learning. We'll be coming to you beginning in 2020 with about 2 podcasts a month. We'll be bringing learning leaders from around the globe. Today is an introductory presentation. I'm going to talk to you about my education, my career, my motivation for being in learning for a long period of time. Organizational learning is changing at a pace never seen before. As Nick Van Dam says, it's the 4th revolution. This revolution is being driven by advancements in technology. For example, artificial intelligence, machine learning, learning bots. These are all playing and influencing how we develop and deliver different types of learning. Number 2, the skills people require for their job have to now work in harmony with technology. We're seeing, for instance, a big change in how learning is developed and the content is taken. There's the integration now of learning technologies that helps build courseware and helps build assessments, which is really starting to change the landscape. And then finally, there's a big change in the demographics of the workplace, moving away from historical baby boomers in the workplace. And now with the millennials coming up, they learn differently. And what are some of the challenges that are being faced in a modern organization? I have 2 primary goals for this show. The first goal is to bring in global learning leaders to come chat with us in a non-threatening environment, so we could learn more about their backgrounds, what they did to get to where they are today, what were some of their challenges. The second goal of this show is to engage them in a great conversation on different learning topics that are of interest to you and are really changing the way we're developing and delivering workforce learning. Topics such as different types of technology, innovation in learning, changing of the workforce. How are we upskilling the workforce for tomorrow? Big conversations that are happening on the street today. So you might be asking yourself at this point, hey Brian, what's your motivation for being in learning development? I think in our business, we have one of the best jobs in the world, very similar to being a doctor. A doctor helps keep a person healthy and survive. In the learning business, we help people learn and be able to perform their work efficiently and effectively on the jobs. So we're both in the business of helping people. Let me explain this a little bit further. Recently, we finished a project with a very large manufacturer. We were doing the end user training of different types of software that they were implementing in the plant. On the manufacturing floor, they had almost 500 plus workers. Most of them read at a grade 3 education level. English wasn't their first language, and the majority of them had little to no skills in using a computer or other types of technology. We had to look at training very differently from this group as opposed to training people in IT or HR about new software systems and how to use them. So on the floor, we had to go in and do simulation-based training. We had to teach the workers in the plant how to use different types of technology like barcoding machines, entering data into the laptops they have on the floor, and being able to integrate those new technologies into their job. Do you think these people were worried? They heard about a new software coming into the plant. They knew that they had to learn it and use it in order to keep their jobs. They have families, they have mortgages or rents that need to be paid. They need to put food on the table. And if they lose a job like this could really drastically change their lives. Do you think they're concerned about their job? Of course they are. So what we try to do in the learning business is help these people that they are going to be able to perform on their jobs, being effective and having a good livelihood and career after we move on. This is a changing world today, and learning is playing a big part of it. And we're key to that success as learning professionals. So we did things differently training these people. It was very hands-on, role-based learning, and we took our time in getting these workers comfortable with the technology. They were all able to adopt the technology into their day-to-day jobs. I think they were delighted about it. The satisfaction we got by seeing these folks learn the new technology, integrate it into their work, and thrive as an employee really makes a difference. We help these people, and that's why I'm in the learning business today. Let me speak for a moment about my educational background and how it prepared me for my career in learning and development. I think it really started when my parents immigrated after the war, and they came over here and established themselves. And they had told me and my brother and sister at the time the importance of education, that during a war, for example, you could lose everything you have, but no one could take away your education. My father was a teacher throughout his career, and I remember the big influence it played on me about going to the classroom, watching him teach, and helping out with sports. This was really big, and I knew at a young age I wanted to become an educator. In other words, a teacher. When I did graduate from McGill University with a degree in education, I tried to get a job, but I was at the end of the baby boomers and most of the jobs were taken. Therefore, I became a substitute teacher, and I did that for 4 years. Substitute teaching is a very tricky and demanding role, and I discovered after 4 years of doing it that this wasn't really essentially what I wanted to do with my career. But I went on and really thought about pursuing a further education and really understanding my craft, my trade, on how to work and teach both children and adults. My degrees, advanced degrees, come from Concordia University, where I got a master's degree in education. And then I went on to complete my Doctor of Philosophy in Educational Technology, which I think all of those degrees really provided me with the knowledge and foundation to understand techniques, approaches, and theories about how people learn best. So I have spent about 30 years in my career in working with adults. As I said earlier, I was a substitute teacher for 4 years, and then I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine who worked for a Big Four consulting company. And he asked me if I had ever considered working with adults, and so really getting into organizational learning with companies. That's something I didn't really think about, but I thought that I would give this a try and go out and see if I could learn and develop new skills and become a really good consultant. So I focused on human capital with a specialization in learning and development. I spent 10 years working for a Big Four consulting firm, and I had the great opportunity to go around the world. I provided services in learning in 22 different countries in all of the continents around the globe. And it provided me with a really unique perspective of how people learn in different locations, their approaches to learning, and some of the techniques they apply as opposed to what we have here in the Americas. 30 years later, I'm still doing similar work, providing consulting to large companies. I did during my career take on 2 opportunities within organizations as an employee to them, and I was a learning leader. And that provided me with additional insight and perspectives of how to manage learning departments within organizations. So my career was a long series of different types of projects on a global basis and meeting a lot of interesting people and hearing how they best develop their people. This is something I'd like to bring to the table when we bring in some of our guests. So let me speak for a few moments about some key beliefs of mine about learning. First, I believe individuals learn best by doing. I believe in apprenticeship programs can be very effective to learning a job hands-on, doing. That leads me into the second point. I say be a generalist, but build expertise in one particular area. For example, in my line of work, I have deep insight into how to measure, collect data, and provide reports that will help learning leaders make decisions about their program effectiveness. The third thing I think is really important is for an individual to have a mindset of adaptation and change. The ability to be in the workforce and adapt to the constant migration and direction of an organization. Having the ability to change, the ability, for example, to adopt new learning technologies or new methodologies that are being used or new techniques. These are all really important, and the world is always changing. So you as an individual must be ready to adapt and change as you go along in your career. And finally, I believe it's extremely important to seek out and integrate a mentor or a coach early in your career. These folks will provide you with constructive guidance on how you could do things better, how you can develop your craft and learn from your errors, but have them guide you along that road. These are 4 aspects of learning that I think individuals should think about when they're developing in their career. So that's the end of our show for today, and I'm glad you joined us. I'm really excited to be bringing our first show with our guest in 2020, who is a really dynamic person and will share some deep thinking around learning and how they are dealing with their large organization, some of the challenges. I know you're going to enjoy it. We're going to keep it short and sweet, but you're going to get insight like you're not finding anywhere else. We're looking forward to that first show. See you there.